Today we are going to continue our discussions on applying Neville's information for ideal relationships. Now, one of the things that I encourage on the journey to realizing your ideal relationships is observation if there is any control, force, or trying too hard. This is apparent on dates or interacting with others, within or outside of their physical appearance, in any shape or form. Be aware if you are forcing or trying too hard, which you can, if so, in that moment. Release that controlling belief, and this returns you to your ideal state of consciousness. And then you know what to do or not do clearly, as we allow the unseen power to animate everything behind the scenes and take care of everything for us. Then it's wonderful to observe how things move easily, lovingly, faster, and authentically by simply releasing the unnecessary control. The unnecessary control is caused by corresponding control-based beliefs identified with in mind. You see, relationships, although appearing without, are actually part of an inner world journey. They appear as physical relationships to reflect the corresponding inner world journey, as he says here. The journey is in yourself. You travel along the highways of the inner world. And this journey is simplified as a journey of mind and speech, as stated in the Hermetica. There were two gifts bestowed upon humanity. They were mind and speech, and these two gifts are equal to immortality. They are the two gifts that set us free. Thus, you literally, inwardly, speak things into existence, and those things that you inwardly speak are done for you. The personal self moves automatically by law. Everyone moves, and everything happens automatically by law. You don't need to lift a finger. It's done for you by grace. As stated in Joshua 1:3, every place that the sole of your foot shall tread upon, I have given to you, as I said to Moses. And this doesn't mean you have to always be consciously imagining. Only as applicable in the moments that call for repentance, which means to forget specific beliefs that are not ideal when it comes to relationships. So we let the world be. There's no need to convince it. You lovingly accept that you already are in the ideal relationship you desire to be in. For to desire a state is to have it. So inner talking occurs whether we are aware of it or not. It's amazing how much inner talking was revealed over the years since I first learned about it in 2004 in the book Think and Grow Rich. And so it never has to end, for there are always higher degrees of prosperity as you acknowledge each moment of prosperity that's done for you. Again, as stated in Joshua 1:3, every place that the sole of your foot will tread upon, I have given to you, as I said to Moses. And so we bring it to awareness and effortlessly carry on an inner conversation from fulfilled desire. Then the corresponding experiences change. This world moves automatically and lovingly by law, as consciousness is one, and there is no real gap or separation in consciousness. All is interconnected. And isn't it wonderful that you have all the power? And so without being aware of inner talking in relation to the appearances could remain the same. As we become aware of it, we can direct our inner talking in relation to the appearances to change the appearances, as he says here. Inner talking reveals the activities of imagination, activities which are the causes of the circumstances of life. So now let's discuss 3 easy ways of applying this. Number 1, letting it be. Number 2, revision. And number 3, inner conversation from fulfilled desire. Let's reflect upon this quote here from Neville first. He says, "The world is a magic circle of infinite possible mental transformations, for there are an infinite number of possible mental conversations." When we discover the creative power of inner talking, we realize our function and mission in life. Then we can act to a purpose. Without such knowledge, we could act unconsciously. Everything is a manifestation of the mental conversations which go on in us without our being aware of them. But as civilized beings, we must become aware of them and act with a purpose. So let's start with letting it be. You see, beliefs were once formed through an unconscious imaginal act corresponding with the appearance, as he says here. Without such knowledge, we act unconsciously. It can also be formed through an imaginal act without any appearance. In both of these scenarios, either ideally corresponding with the appearances of ideal relationships, or not ideally, which corresponds as the appearances of not so ideal relationships. Now, our true self is already ideal. Acknowledge this. It's already done. You are already ideal now. You were and always will be ideal now. So when we have an experience with another, physically or outside of their physical presence, mentally, we can imagine it to be one way or another. This is the meaning we are applying. And since we know that we already are the ideal we desire to be, the ideal relationship is automatically being added onto us. So from this premise, we don't need to consciously imagine unless we find it helpful, and everything resumes moving lovingly and ideally to realize our ideal relationships. Then we have revision, which means to forget certain beliefs not true to how you are ideally, by reimagining those appearances from the past to be ideal. Otherwise, a person could persist stubbornly in false beliefs, suffering in the process, perhaps appearing as relationships that are not ideal, to reveal the belief identified with. And thus, no shame or condemnation. Awareness is simply being brought to the belief identified with in mind. And this is where we apply revision. It's a simple imaginal act that causes us to forget specific beliefs about the experience. You simply reimagine the event in question ideally. For example, if a person felt shame to what someone said to them, they can reimagine it as feeling ideal in relation to what the person said. I learned this in sales. Rejection doesn't mean being not good enough. It means I now have optimization data, which is exciting. Thus, I am ideal now. So with revision, you release identification to specific false beliefs in question to remain in your ideal state of consciousness, which reflects as ideal relationships. For a further elaboration of revision, I recommend watching last Sunday's video, which I'll link to in the description. Revision is wonderful for having what you desire and remaining in your ideal state of consciousness, where all other ideal things are added onto you automatically as pleasant surprises, as he says here. I know from experience it will not only bring about these objectives and bring about these changes, but the glorious thing is it awakens in you the Spirit of Jesus. And you find yourself then not justifying, but forgiving. And you will realize that freedom and forgiveness are indissolubly linked. So see this all as a blissful journey to realizing ideal relationships, an inner journey from the premise of living from your ideal state of consciousness, which reflects automatically as the ideal relationships that you personally desire, not by my standards, not by another's standards, or this world made up of beliefs, your own personal standard. You already know what ideal relationship means to you. And then we have inner talking from the premise of fulfilled desire as applicable. So you always have this still, soft voice that speaks with you. It is your true inner voice. It is always there for everyone. It speaks lovingly and ideally, usually heard while in your flow or spontaneously while in the silence. This still, soft voice is beyond the overthinking and emotional turmoil. It actually clears it all up. I recommend building a relationship with it. It reveals the true meaning in relation to appearances corresponding to your ideal state of consciousness, which you can turn into autosuggestions that easily release the false beliefs when it comes to relationships, to speed things up nicely. And related to this, I released a video a few weeks ago on the Holy Guardian Angel. I'll link in the description to it. I trust you'll find it to be helpful. So in summary thus far, the undesirable circumstances in relation to our ideal relationships are perpetuated by specific beliefs identified with. So rather than forcing yourself or pretending like they're not there, which is unnecessary mental strain, take the effortless approach by applying any of the three. Just one or combination is enough to transform the appearances. And so why does this work so well? Because of your unseen power within your subconscious mind that animates the physical self and the relationships, does not do anything for you unless you consciously or subconsciously ask it to. We may have thus been subconsciously directing the power via those beliefs, which is only programming. So we can say subconscious instructions that the unseen power automatically operates from. This is where free will has been surrendered. You have free will at every and any moment to imagine how you'd like it to be. And what you imagine is done for you as the appearances of this world. The unseen takes care of everything for you, as stated in Matthew 6:6. But when you pray, go into your room, close the door, and pray to your Father who is unseen. Then your Father, who sees what is done in secret, will reward you. The unseen is beyond the physical. We're taught the true essence of the unseen is infinite love and wisdom in your favor. It is only false beliefs in mind that would suggest otherwise, as Neville says here. So I know we are purified, that we may see God through the death of our delusions. What is a delusion? Well, the dictionary defines it as a mental error, a false belief, especially that belief that is persisted in, that when one goes through it, it becomes. That's a fixation. Thus, the unseen is and was always animating everything in an ideal way to bring forth your ideal relationships. It's only the false beliefs that create unnecessary sufferings. And so you already are your ideal now. You are, was, and forever shall be ideal. So this journey is all about releasing the shackles in mind. The unnecessary ones are being released. Many beliefs are helpful for human experiences. What we want to release is identification to the false beliefs in mind, so we can be how we truly desire to be and experience it also as ideal relationships. Whatever you personally believe as ideal relationships, as far as the senses perceive. And so again, how does one know if they're operating from false beliefs? It is revealed through force and control, and they are unnecessary. Why would we need to force and control if everything is done for us in an infinitely wise and loving way? We simply release them through any of the three ways mentioned, and as they are released, so are the corresponding circumstances from your life. So I trust you found this video to be helpful. Let's go ahead and conclude this with an auto-suggestion to further encourage. You can say, all I see is love. All I know is love. All I am is love. As the blissful transmutation of all energy into love occurs automatically, reflecting as ideal relationships as far as the senses perceive, all done for me by the all-wise and all-loving, unseen power within me. If you would like a copy of this mind map, the link is in the description. Thank you very much for watching. I'll talk with you soon. Take care.